Sadie Voth. From 2019 to 2020, wildfires burnt through 60,000 miles of land in Australia, according to Michelle Ward, professor in the School of Biological Sciences at the University of Queensland, in the journal Nature, Ecology and Evolution, published in July of 2020. Everyone in this room has heard of what a wildfire is and may have even seen one in real life. Some of you have probably seen pictures and videos of Australia's wildfires this past year. Australia could have handled their 2019-2020 wildfires better. First, I will talk about what started the fires. Second, I'll talk about the environmental effects of the wildfires. And finally, I will discuss the economic effects of the wildfires. First, let's talk about what started the wildfires. There are a few main causes that helped start and spread Australia's wildfires. In September of 2019, Australia was facing a severe drought, meaning their climate was very hot and dry, the perfect conditions for a wildfire to spread and grow quickly. According to Luke Collins, a professor in the Department of Ecology, Environment and Evolution at La Trobe University, in the journal Global Change Biology, published in June of 2019. Another cause of the fires was Australia was suffering the consequences of continuous land use management, which worsened the effects of the fires and the severity and frequency. This includes logging and other associated fire management. According to David B. Lindenmayer, professor at Fenner's School of Environment and Society, in the journal Nature, Ecology and Evolution, published in May of 2020. The next indirect cause is that Australia, as well as many other countries, put their time and effort into training fire suppression rather than fire prevention. Fire suppression is the training of how to stop a fire once it has already begun, and fire prevention is learning how to not start a wildfire. Now that we have talked about how the fire started, we can move on to my second point, the environmental effects. There are many environmental effects due to the wildfires. Over 60,000 miles of vegetation was burnt. 832 species of vertebrate fauna, a native plant to Australia, was threatened, 82 of which were already endangered. Now they're working hard to conserve these species and protect the new fire-vulnerable species. There are at least 30 confirmed deaths, and there could be more since the fires were so new. According to Lizzie Smith, head of Science, Technology, Environment and Security in the journal Parliament of Australia, published in March 2020. There are greater than 1 million mammals, birds, and reptiles that were lost during the fires, and the carbon loss is undetermined yet. According to Mark Adams, a professor at Swinburne University of Tech, in the journal Global Change Biology, published in April of 2020. Now that we have discussed the environmental effects, we can move on to my final point, the economic effects. Health costs related to the wildfires rose to $1.95 billion, larger than it has ever been. There were 492 premature deaths linked to smoke inhalation and other injuries due to the wildfires. Thousands of businesses will need to rebuild. Government put lots of money and asked over 70 countries for their help, but in the end it was only rainfall that could stop them. According to Faye H. Johnston, professor at University of Tasmania, in the journal Nature Sustainability, published in September of 2020. Over 3,000 homes were burnt, and there were over 3,200 hospital visits related to cardiovascular and respiratory disorders, and over 1,500 emergency attendances linked to asthma from the fires. First, I talked about what started the fires. Second, I talked about the environmental effects of the fires. And finally, I discussed the economic effects of the wildfires. Australia could have handled their 2019-2020 wildfires better. Due to the fires, thousands of businesses will have to rebuild, over 1 million animals burnt to death, and over 800 species of fauna were threatened. Australia, as well as many other countries, will likely put more money and effort into fire prevention training than fire suppression training in the future.
4:36.